All right. Well, I think we can go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us so early in the morning. Everyone has a cup of coffee and is ready for the day. My name is Jordan Webster. I am with the Home Builders Association of Greater Kansas City. I'm also a member of the Northland Education Business Alliance, or NEBA. NEBA is a network of education and business organizations in Clay and Platte Counties whose vision is to promote and provide business-driven educational opportunities for you, our next generation of business leaders. I will be your host during this session. I do have two colleagues that are kind of working with me as well. We have Amy Washam and Megan Binkley Hopper, both with Northwest Missouri State University. So thank you guys. Just a few quick notes before we get started. This session will run for 40 minutes and we'll have a hard stop at 8:40. Our industry experts that are joining us today will begin by sharing their professional history and insight, but we want this definitely to feel more like a conversation. So you will see a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. So please we encourage you to post in that area, ask any questions that you have. No question is too big or too small. We might not be able to get to all of them, but we'll absolutely do our best. When this session ends, you will be asked to take a quick survey. So please give us feedback on this event and how we can get better in hosting these type of things in the future. Last but not least, this session is being recorded and will be available on NEBA's YouTube channel in the near future. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go around to the different panelists and just have them introduce themselves and give a little background. So let's start with Christopher Holder. You want to kick us off?
Good morning. For some reason, I thought I was going to get the honor of the first one to introduce myself. Welcome to everyone. My name is Chris Holder. I'm a senior auditor with the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General. If you're not real familiar with HHS, that's not uncommon. As a federal agency, we are rather large, but we're also in this sphere of, not everyone is completely familiar with us. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is the largest federal agency that is completely ran by the civilian side, the federal government. It includes the Centers for Disease Control, Food and Drug Administration, Medicare, Medicaid, and a host of other different sub-agencies. Annually, we're about a $2 trillion a year agency. As part of the Office of Inspector General, we are responsible for identifying fraud, waste, and abuse within the agency, within those programs, and then reporting back upon those issues and either recommending changes for efficiency, cost savings, or return of federal money back to the federal government. So it's a really exciting job. I've been doing it for about 15 years now. Prior to that, I was actually an undergraduate at Northwest Missouri State University, where I received my accounting and corporate finance degree. So that's a little bit about my background in a nutshell.
Thanks, Chris. We'll definitely come back to you. Okay, next, Elizabeth Burns. Elizabeth, we can't hear you.
We can go ahead and just move on to Karen for right now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Good morning. This is Karen Rouse. I am the Regional Director at the Kansas City Regional Office with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. I've been with the department for, I don't know how many years, but it's been since 1998. You all do the math. I started out in Poplar Bluff in a regional office inspecting public water supplies. And through my career, I've been to Jefferson City, where I've spent the bulk of my career there, mainly doing water management issues for the state, Missouri River, interstate water management issues, that kind of thing. And then a couple of years ago, I came over here to Kansas City to become the regional director here. And there's an office of about 40 here in the office right now. And our territory goes up to the Iowa border. and down towards Warsaw and then over towards Lexington. So we have about a 19 county footprint, and we inspect water supplies. We help keep the streams clean from pollution, inspect landfills, hazardous waste, solid waste, air pollution issues. So if you ever have an environmental concern, you can just go to our website or give us a call and report that. And we're also part of that enforcing or implementing the environmental laws that the state has on the books. And so that's our main focus here. And I am, proud to lead that group that does so much work around here and protecting the environment for all of you.
Thanks, Karen.
You're welcome.
Okay, Heather.
Good morning. My name is Heather Hall, and I serve on the City Council here in Kansas City, Missouri, representing mostly the Northland, but all of the city. And the things that I really focus most of my attention on are public safety, keeping our constituents safe, lots of the basics, infrastructure, how we collect our trash and keep people safe and fix our potholes and work with ways that we can keep our city clean and environmentally safe, but also help the people who are paying their tax dollars to get the services that they ask for. So that's really important to me. One thing that's also critically important to me is we have a current kind of an irritation between the Kansas City in the rest of the city versus what's happening in the Northland. And we're finding a real kind of an assault on builders and people who are trying to do infrastructure projects in the Northland, and how that might be continuing to rise prices. And that's a problem for me, and that's a problem for the people who want to develop and engage in the Northland to help the citizens up here. So that's critical for me to speak out and stand up for those in the Northland who are trying to just make our city as great as it possibly can be. So that's critical to me. I have children in the Northland school districts. My kids go to Liberty School. My daughter goes to Liberty schools. My boys have graduated from high school and are in higher education. So it's critical for me that they can come back and be productive members of the Northland, or at least the Kansas City community, in a positive way. And if we continue to build on the successes and fix the problems of the past to make Kansas City better, those of you who are listening who are the younger generation, you're the ones that we want to make it better for, so you have a bright future to come home to and build for your future generations. So that's my goal. And whatever that looks like, it takes a myriad of ways to make that better, whether it's law and order, whether it's clean infrastructure, whether it is good education and bringing that marriage of good education and a great job workforce opportunities together, then I'm all in. So that's what I'm working for. Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Back to Elizabeth. Did you?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. My name is Elizabeth Burns. I am an archivist for the National Archives at Kansas City. Like Chris, I work for the federal government, and my agency is specifically tasked with taking care of and making available the historical records that are created by the federal government. The National Archives is probably most famous for having the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, but there are so many other historical records that are created in the day-to-day workings of our federal government. And so we have a number of facilities across the United States. I happen to be here at our Kansas City facility, but my particular role is a divided one. I work as an archivist here in Kansas City, working with the records that we have from federal agencies here in the Midwest. But I also serve as a subject matter expert for immigrant records for the entirety of the National Archives. So I work with our facilities across the country in helping them understand the records that they have related to immigrants, also with how they can make those records more available on a broader spectrum, whether that's doing work online or just in the way that they process the records locally to make them more available to members of the public like you.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thanks everyone for giving it. So I'm just going to start with the first question, and I'm going to go back to Chris, and we'll just kind of go around. So we just kind of into more the nitty gritty. What does a normal day look like for you?
I feel like that's a, go ahead.
So Sorry, no, I feel like that's a loaded question because sometimes it's very different. But.
Sure. I feel like that's one of the most amazing things about the agency that I work with. So we are a large agency with a lot of responsibility. So there's a lot of different work that we do that is very much different from day to day. So my role is as a senior auditor. So we're continuously working on audits of various federal programs, grants, and working with a wide range of states, state agencies, hospitals, doctors' offices, medical providers. So there is no real one day-to-day routine. In the last year, I've had the opportunity to work on audits that included the state of Kansas, one that worked at the federal level. And currently we're working on an audit of a university. So all of these programs are very different from each other. There's a lot of diversity in what we do. So as a result, there really isn't one routine that you can identify. You just kind of do the work that is on the plate, kind of on your agenda at the time. So that's, as I was saying, that's kind of one of the most interesting and great things about our work is if you're looking for a job that has a lot of variety, has a lot of opportunity, requires a lot of ongoing learning, this is what we do is really right down that field.
Thanks, Chris. Karen?
It's a lot like Chris. I mean, you can start out your day with every intention of going through your priority list, but something, could show up in your inbox at 7:30 that you need to, put a fire out sooner rather than later. And so, my job is a lot about, like Chris said, being flexible and planning on having that variety throughout your day or day to day. A lot of the people that work in this office, frontline staff and supervisors, you can plan on the same kind of thing, a lot of variety. If it's project planning or issue resolving or resolving issues or, thinking of different ways in which to communicate better with not only each other within the office, but the regulated community or people in Jefferson City. So, it's a lot about relationships and continual improvement, really.
Awesome. Elizabeth?
So every day is definitely different. Some days I work heavily searching for records to answer questions that people email to our office. Other times I work on preservation tasks, helping to protect the records so they'll exist for people in the future to use. This could include putting documents in safe, clean boxes, removing staples, or even bigger tasks like using humidification chambers to flatten folded papers, or using an ultrasonic welder that uses sound waves to seal papers inside sheets of clear plastic. Since we're working from home right now, I spend a lot of time each day looking through and populating spreadsheets to make sure that we know where records are located and can easily find lists of what's in each box. Some of my favorite tasks at work are doing public programs to teach researchers how to use our records, writing articles using our records as primary sources, and even creating web pages to help researchers understand a topic better.
Great. Heather?
Well, I think the theme of the day is flexibility and adaptability, because in every job, no matter what your day starts out looking like, when you get up in the morning and you look at your agenda, it doesn't always go the way you anticipate it's going to go. And so I think for young people looking to start their career, I think if we can teach, or not even teach, but just explain that flexibility and adaptability is going to be critical in any successful career path you take in any career field. Obviously, we're all in different fields, although we all kind of relate to the government in some way. whether it's corporate America or in the private sector or in the public sector, adaptability is going to be critical. And for me, my most difficult task is how we decide to vote and create laws that we believe are going to be fair for the people of Kansas City, Missouri. What do our laws, when we vote for an ordinance that becomes a law, what are the unintended consequences? Who are the target audiences that are affected positively because they thought that this would be a good one, and those who are maybe positively or negatively affected that we maybe were not intending to do. So really trying to have that balance of why we want to legislate and what the needs of what the reasons are for legislation and how that's going to affect the population. That's the hardest part. And the best part is meeting with my constituents, the citizens who elected us to serve. They are the heart of the city, and they're the reason that we do this, to serve the people well. And so when I get to go out and meet with the people, which I try to do every single day, that's what gives me the joy and and reminds me why we said we would do this. So that's where I find the most joy.
Kind of leading into that, we'll go back to Chris, but the next question is, what are the most essential or transferable skills that students need to enter your guys' specific profession?
Right. So doing what we do with our section of the agency, we have accounting backgrounds. So accounting degrees are what gets you in the door. So a lot of people expect that the numbers crunching, being able to use database manipulation or Excel spreadsheets, really one of the key skills. While those are very important, I think that the thing that gets left out more often than not is communication skills, both written and oral communication skills. A lot of what we do requires strong communication skills. We spend a lot of time doing data analytics, looking at records and expenditures and things that require us to focus on the numbers and come up with a conclusion. But the ability to communicate that conclusion to a third party or to the auditee or to as simple as your boss requires those strong communication skills. So that is something that we really stress with people looking to come into our industry, is don't get lost in the idea that we are only going to be focusing on analytics. You need to be able to be able to logically explain what you've done and why you did it, and ultimately get them to understand your purpose. So the communication skills is definitely an area that we feel we try to focus on a lot, just above and beyond just the number side.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. Also, before I move on to Karen, just remember that if you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A and we'll definitely have some time to get to them. So just a little reminder. Karen?
Again, I'm going to piggyback off of Chris. I agree. It's having those communication skills to explain the why, not only to the regulated community. If you go out there and you identify an environmental compliance issue, a lot of people want to understand the why behind why they have to do something, why they have to spend money out of their own pocket, or why they have to do a different behavior, right? To understand that why. So if you can communicate that effectively, that's more than half the battle. And so I agree with Chris, having those communication skills, both written and oral, is very key in what we do. Especially on my level, if we want to approach the way we do business a little bit differently, then being able to explain why, and not only to my superiors, but perhaps, Jordan, you and I have worked a little bit together with the HBA in trying to break down those barriers of what, environmental regulation, the reputation of it. And so I think having those communication skills to be able to, improve the relationship or build on an already good one, then I think that's key. But, you know, for here, we have a lot of biologists or people with a biology background, environmental sciences, and engineers. We have some admin staff, but all together, you know, all those backgrounds, we can teach you the technical skills. But if you have those quote unquote soft skills of being able to communicate effectively, but, you know, and also have good customer service, that that is really key to being a good, or what I'm looking for in, you know, future employees.
Elizabeth?
I would say that a major asset for an archivist at the National Archives is the ability to look at a collection of papers from a different government agency and be able to piece together who created the records, why they were created, what purpose they served in the past. Then we use that information to think about how people today will interact with the papers. What will help people today understand the history behind those pieces of paper? What tools or background knowledge will they need to find the information that they're looking for? We have to be able to see the bigger picture of how our government's history relates to people today.
Heather?
Well, definitely communication. I think that's critical. You know, in my business, you can be elected to office with just about any background, because every background, I think, is incredibly important in seeing the big picture of how we serve the people that are constituents. So we have lawyers and engineers on our city council. We also have people who don't have college degrees on our council, and we have people who are like me who have a public relations and journalism degree, which doesn't necessarily seem obvious, but you know, if you can communicate to the public in a positive way, in a clear way that people can understand it, then that's half the battle. And so whatever kinds of education you get, if you know how to communicate with people, if you know how to look people in the eye, shake their hand, talk to them, and have a conversation, that's the first step in opening up lines of communication so you can fix a problem if there's a problem, or create some new exciting program if that's what you want to do. You know, in my office, something that I have always done, and that is I have an intern every single semester. And so I've been in office for 6 years. I have had 13 interns. Right now, I currently have 2 interns in my office. They don't get paid. They get education. They get a line on their resume, and they sure get a heck of a lot of experience. And the things they learn how to do, they learn how to research, they learn how to write, they learn how to read legal documents that they maybe wouldn't understand otherwise. They get to stand up and present documents in front of city council and a mayor and other leaders in our community. And they learn how to not text people, but talk to people. And it's a new fancy piece of communication where we don't look down and text, but we actually look up and smile and talk to people. And the one thing that I will say with the young folks that are listening, texting is great and it's amazing and it's a great form of communication, but generally not in the workplace is it a great way to articulate your position for things to get things done. And so one thing that I believe, regardless of whether you go and shadow Beth, Chris, Karen, or I, get an internship, whether it's a shadow day for one day, I don't care. Take a day off of school, or have a day that you have a free day from school where they don't have school. Go call Karen or Chris or Beth or I and say, can I just come and follow you around a day at work? We will probably say yes, because you know what? It is critical that you see what you think you like, what you think you may not like. But if you don't go and do internships, go do shadow days, follow people around in their industry, you could waste an entire college career on a degree path you think you want, but you don't really end up wanting. And so I would say the critical thing is education, education, education. Figure out what you think you like, and now go find out if it's what you like. Go call people in those industries, and they are more than willing to welcome you into their industry and let you follow them around and see if you like it. I'm always willing to do that because it's critical. It's truly critical to find out how to figure out your passion, because no matter what it is that you get your degree in, if you're passionate about something, you'll be hungry for it and you'll work for it, and it'll just become what it is you're good at. Now, obviously, people like, the other three, they have specific skill sets they had to go to college for. I don't. I just have to learn how to talk and answer people's questions, and I'm pretty good. But I don't need a biology degree to do what I do, but I definitely need to understand how to listen to people and articulate their needs and help address those concerns.
Thank you. We did have a question that came in from our attendees this morning, and it was kind of touching on, I think, where Jordan was headed next, but we'll see if we can just flesh out a little bit more. They were asking about what educational background did each of you need in your current position? So you each kind of mentioned maybe an area of study, and you can maybe also even think of your colleagues in answering this question. So typically, for yourself, your position, and or in your industry, and maybe indicate the level. So are we looking at just a little bit of education outside high school? Are we looking at a specific level of college degree? So Chris, if you wanted to start us off with that.
Definitely. As I mentioned before, my background is in accounting, and as an auditor, we do require a minimum of 24 hours of accounting with a bachelor's degree, but generally we hire individuals with an accounting bachelor's degree in accounting. However, our agency is broken up into three main parts. Where we are the audit side, but we also have a law enforcement side and what we call an evaluations and inspection side. Now, our law enforcement side are obviously the federal law enforcement, our Office of Investigations, and a lot of them come with their criminal justice background. A lot of them come from municipal or state level law enforcement agencies. Sometimes we get some cross federal law enforcement agencies in there as well. But these individuals are definitely more of a criminal justice background. Now, on our evaluations and inspection side, that team runs kind of the gamut. We have social workers, we have attorneys, we have individuals that have backgrounds in public health, so that they have a very wide and varied background. So on the audit side, we're definitely specific in with accounting degrees. However, within the HHS OIG as a whole, we have a lot of opportunities for backgrounds.
Awesome, thank you. Karen, could you let us know about level of degree and potentially a level of degrees even for your colleagues? I know you kind of indicated areas of study already.
So I have a master's, but you definitely don't need a master's for this position. I believe the qualifications are a bachelor's or at least a bachelor's. Now, within the department statewide, there are many positions that don't require anything beyond high school. And so, I mean, we have offices and, from state parks and state historical sites and other regional offices throughout the state that have a mix of different types of educational requirements going from a high school diploma, and beyond. So just go to the website and you can look at those different qualifications, and as well as those different classifications that require the different levels of education.
Thank you. Elizabeth?
So my undergraduate degree is in history, and then I have a master's degree in history and museum studies. But honestly, people coming into the National Archives come from a variety of different places. You might have people who just have an interest in history or political science. You might have people coming in with a master's degree in library science or museum studies, but we also have people who are chemistry degrees that work in our conservation labs. So really, you can come from a variety of angles and end up at the National Archives. Getting a master's degree has become more common, but it's not a requirement for many entry-level positions in the federal government. There are also certifications you can pursue, like becoming a certified archivist or getting a certificate in museum studies. I want to piggyback on Heather, though, and say that I think one of the biggest and most important things that students can do is to pursue internships. Not only does it give you practical experience doing the work, but it really can help you understand the direction you might want to take as you start your career. In college, I was a history major who had planned to go to law school, but I realized as it came time to look at law schools that I really didn't feel as passionately about practicing law as I originally had. When I tried to figure out what to do next, I actually came across an opportunity to apply for a summer internship at the Truman Presidential Library in Independence. And that entirely changed my path and moved me in the museum and archives direction. And that internship gave me experience I could list on a resume, and it played a huge role in adding to my work skills as I continued to develop and grow into my career.
Thank you. Heather, is there anything else you would like to add? You kind of addressed that level of degree requirement, maybe additional guidance on for students if they know this is a path to serve in public office. You know, is there something you're seeing that students are gravitating towards that would help set them up for success?
Absolutely. I continue to say you can really be interested in many degree paths and serve in the government at all levels, because as you can see, all of us have something to do with the government, and each one of us has pretty different career paths that we've chosen and degree paths that got us here. So I think that what the blessing to this, and I think what's good for the youth to hear, is that you can pick the path you want to pick, and it all can lead to some sort of service and a successful career path. It all starts though with really taking a deep dive of yourself and finding out what you like and what you don't like, and also giving yourself grace in the process. Just because you say, I'm going to be an engineer, and you go to college for engineering, or you just don't go to college and you go to a career technical organization or a career technical group that will help you get maybe 1 or 2 years of a process, or even like to Metropolitan Community College and get some classes under your belt. I think it's not so much about the level of education, it's the quality of the classes that you take to get you where you want to go. And also giving yourself the opportunity to say, gosh, I got that degree, and that degree doesn't really what I want to do, but you know what, I can still use the skill sets that I learned to transition into another career path. And I think that's really critical to say, don't beat yourself up as you go through the process, because it's different for everybody. And when I was doing my degree in public relations and journalism, I for sure thought I was going to own and run my own PR firm and make things, raise a lot of money for a lot of nonprofit organizations, and I did do that. But then my career path changed, and here we are, and it works for that too. And so be on it, be fair with yourself, and give yourself some grace in the process.
Kind of piggybacking off of that question, I'm just going to kind of open this to everyone and anybody can chime in. But what skills should students focus on in high school? So say they're interested in one of your career paths, but they haven't made it to the college level yet. Like, what classes can they take in high school that can teach them some more about, hey, this might be something I'm interested in?
I can start off. Most high schools have a bookkeeping or accounting 1 and accounting 2 course so they can take. I think that's maybe a good idea to look at that as an elective. It will give you that. One, it will give you some basic financial knowledge for your own personal use. I think that's a good thing for students to learn at a young age in general. But that's how I got into my accounting major, is as a sophomore or junior in high school. I needed an elective, so I enrolled in our accounting 1 class in high school. I found that I liked it. I found that it was something that I enjoyed, so I just continued to pursue it, and just decided that when I went to college, it was something that I was going to major in as well. So look at if they have a personal finance class, an accounting class, and you use that maybe as an opportunity as one of your electives.
Great.
I'll go next. I don't know necessarily about courses because it's been a while since I've been in high school. I'm not really sure what classes are being taught these days, but I would, when I look at a resume, I'm interested in what kind of extracurricular activities people have been in, like clubs associated with school, and typically those that are community service oriented because not only are you going to be learning something, but it's also like the application of that learning that you may have from school. And also what we've talked about, so far in this meeting is being able to communicate with each other, not only within that group, but if it's a community service project, then it's interacting with that community that the group is participating with, and those kind of skills that you'll be learning through that experience.
Heather or Elizabeth?
I would just say, coming at a job at the National Archives, you may think, oh, I really need to love history. I really need to be into, reading about history and things like that. But it's more having research skills, being able to figure out, okay, I need to find X piece of information. How do I do that? And you can do that in a lot of different classes within high school. And so I really would just be sure that you're kind of honing those skills of being able to kind of sleuth out and figure out how to piece together something and how to get from point A to point B. One way that you can practice that even at home is doing something like working on your family history, trying to piece together, different generations within your family. Because being able to kind of in your head walk through the steps of how to research and how to decide, is something a valid source? Is something a good primary source for what I'm looking at? Or is something, maybe not a factual piece of information? And how do I find a primary source to support what I'm looking for? That is a really key piece in the work that I do.
I would agree with everything they've said. The two things I would say that are critically important from the very first question we talked about, we need to learn how to communicate well, and that's all forms. So taking a class so you can write a resume and write a cover letter and write a communication letter to talk to somebody if you are requesting information. So writing skills are critical, speaking skills are critical. But out of all of those things, the thing that I think is the biggest frustration, whether you're in any kind of industry, is the lack of organizational skills to communicate appropriate deadlines and timelines. And something I learned when I was in high school, I read the book by Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the thing that I took out of that was the Covey quadrant, which says basically do first things first. If it's the most important and its timeline is critical, focus on that first. And if you can learn how to compartmentalize and get your work done well and on time, that will not only make you more marketable, but it will keep you employed, because people need people they can count on to do the work efficiently, appropriately, and on time, and communicate it. And if you can't communicate to your boss, you can't write a letter to them or an email with an intelligible amount of information so they understand where you're going with it, then that doesn't keep you very marketable. And so I would really say focus on communication skills of all forms. You've got the texting down, and we all do, right? Or I probably don't. My kids don't understand what I'm texting when I fill out full sentences and periods. But what I do know is that if you don't get things done on time, that's an irritation, because that stops the progress of the success of the organization, whether it's a corporate business, a philanthropic business, a governmental business. We all need to get things done on time in an appropriate fashion. So please don't forget to look that up. It's also called the Eisenhower model. You can look it up, whatever you want to call it. The Stephen Covey has it, as well as General Eisenhower created a model that shows how to put first things first and do your best work when it's appropriate to do it. So
wonderful. I think we have time for one last question. We'll try to sneak it in real quick from our audience. We were asked about how do you go about job shadowing for a day or finding a beneficial internship? And so maybe just a quick little bit on the protocols kind of behind that, or even how to make those connections would be beneficial. So we'll do a real quick 2 minutes on this if Chris wants to start.
So all of our internships, probably similar to Elizabeth's, are posted on usajobs.gov or .com. Both will get you there. Pretty much all the federal government internships in the entire city can be found on that website. And so you can do that. When it comes to job shadowing, those are usually done like reaching directly out to somebody that works for that agency and then making arrangements. Sometimes it may take a little time to set up, just make sure that all the background stuff is taken care of. But as far as internships, definitely check out usajobs.com.
Hey, Karen?
All of our internships are posted on DNR's website, so dnr.mo.gov/careers. And you can go on there and look for all the internships, and that will be statewide. For locally, though, just contact me and I'll tell you what internships we have available, or if you want to shadow for the day, just let me know, and we will try and make it happen.
Super. Beth, did you have, or Elizabeth, sorry, do you have anything you would like to add to what Chris had mentioned?
Yeah, I would just say reaching out directly to an office. So you could email the National Archives at Kansas City and connect with our director. I have a lot of people job shadow me every year, so it's definitely something that we do. You just have to make that connection. It's usually emailing the office or finding out who the director is the best way to connect.
Awesome. And Heather, I know you said you have a lot of experience with interns, so what are your tips and hints?
Well, I would say reach out. What are you interested in? And for mine personally, I put my information in the comments of the Q&A, my email, and the KCMO website for the specifics. But remember, when you go to any one of these organizations, just because we've talked about one part of it, you may not be interested in being an elected official like me, but you may be interested in being in the law department or the communications department or public works, or you might like being in aviation or water. There's a whole lot of different departments that are fascinating that if you call me or emailed me and said, Heather, I'm interested in this, then I can connect you to the director of those departments and let you go have a day with them, and they'll walk you around and show you what things are and give you some information. But also, we are just 4 people. Every single business in this city would be crazy to not respond to you if you requested a job shadow day. And if there's an organization that ignores you, then they're not an organization you want to work with. You want to work with someone who wants to have a successful future with successful new young people who want to bridge the gap. Because I'm only going to be here so long. I'm going to die someday. And you guys are the next generation that are going to take the mantle. And if we don't care about bringing you forward in this, then you don't want to work with us anyway. So please reach out to people, corporate and otherwise.
Well, thank you so much, panelists, for taking the time to share your passion and insight with us today. I hope the people in the audience enjoyed hearing about one of the thousands of many careers in the Kansas City area. Just a reminder, please make sure to complete that survey that will pop up on your screen as soon as the session ends. This will ensure you that we can continue to improve and move forward. To find more information on any of our education opportunities or career opportunities, please visit our website, www.nebaworkskc.com. And please be sure to register for more career speaker series events that are coming up in the future. So I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks again.